1, verses 16 through 18. Listen for the word of the Lord. Ruth replied, "Don't urge me to leave you or to turn back from you. Where you go, I will go. Where you stay, I will stay. Your people will be my people. Your God, my God. Where you die, I will die, and there I will be buried. May the Lord deal with me, be it ever so severely, if anything but death separates you and me." When Naomi realized that Ruth was determined to go with her, she stopped urging her. This is the word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. Well, I have a very complicated relationship with my cats. Okay? First, I didn't want Mama Kitty in the house to begin with. She just showed up in the yard one day, and she just sort of wormed her way in. I mean, we tried to keep her outside as an outside cat, but she just worked her way into my heart until she was inside the house with me. Oh. And then Trisket came, and that was Charlotte. Charlotte wanted Trisket. And all of a sudden, we had 2 cats again. So we had 2 cats in the past. Then they both passed away. Now we have 2 more cats. And I keep thinking, someday I'm not going to have pets to worry about anymore, because I got to clean. We got to clean. We got to feed them. They scratch things. They scratch me. You know, they bite me and scratch me because I play with them. And then, you know, they get too crazy. So, yeah, complicated relationship. You know, there are times when I get mad and I don't want them around. There are times when they just want a little kitty next to me, all purring and fluffy and all that. Oh well, it's complicated. And so is love. So this week is Saint Valentine's Day week. And Saint Valentine, I really don't know much about Saint Valentine. Whoever he was, I think he was a made-up saint. But somehow Saint Valentine became something to do with love. And our culture has embraced it. The United States, we love love and Saint Valentine. And so lots of money is exchanged in the weeks leading up to Saint Valentine's. You got flowers, you got candy, you got all sorts of gifts being passed around. And of course, like every American holiday, it's an excuse to drink. So, as every American holiday is like that. The bars do very well. And the restaurants. Yeah, we like that. Okay, so, but what is godly love? What is love supposed to be between a man and a woman? What is love supposed to look like between parents and children? What is love supposed to look like between family, friends, and Christians and believers? What is it supposed to look like? Well, there's no better example than the story we're going to look at today in the book of Ruth in the Old Testament. It is, well, I have the page number in the bulletin, so if you want to look, it's only 4 chapters. It'll take you about 20 minutes to read it all the way through. I recommend it for homework to go and read the entire story, but I'm going to give you a synopsis of the story right now. Okay, Ruth is from Moab, a country, it would be in modern Jordan today. And Ruth marries a good Jewish boy from Bethlehem, and his family has relocated to Moab because of famine in the Bethlehem area. She marries into the family. Her mother-in-law is Naomi. Her mother-in-law, Naomi's married, Ruth is married, Orpah is married, is the third woman in the story, and she's married as well into the family. She's also from Moab. So all 3 men died, and now the 3 women are on their own. And in biblical times, it's very difficult for a woman to make a living without a man in her life. They generally don't own property. The property goes to the men in the family. Businesses are very difficult for them to start their own business. You need a man in your life in Naomi and Ruth's day. So with the 3 men gone, they have no way of making, of earning their bread, so to speak. So Naomi tells the 2 ladies, Ruth and Orpah, go back to your families, because the law of that day, of that time period, was if a woman is widowed, her family should take her in. A brother, a father, somebody in the family takes her in. So she says, go back to your family. I'm going back to my family in Bethlehem. And Ruth says this in today's reading, I am staying with you. I am staying with you. So she stays with her out of love. She stays with her out of faithfulness. She stays with her out of sacrifice for this woman she loves and cares for. She stays with her out of duty, a sense of duty and honor. So she returns with Naomi to a strange land. She's willing to live in this place, and also she says, your God is my God. So she's willing to become part of the culture of Bethlehem. The 2 women return. In chapter 2, the 2 women are struggling. And so in chapter 2, verse 2, Ruth goes and does something that only really poor people do, and that is gleaning after the harvest. And so what it means is the Old Testament, in Leviticus, there's a regulation in Leviticus. When you chop your harvest down, your grain stalks, you chop them down, and you gather up these grain stalks to bring off to the, what is it called? Threshing floor, to the threshing floor, and I'll explain that in a minute. When you bring them off, grain will fall to the ground. Some grain, not all of it, but some of it will fall to the ground. It says in Leviticus, do not pick up the grain, because that is for poor people. That falls to the ground. So Ruth says to Naomi, I will go, and I will glean from the ground the grain that's fallen. Very difficult, very hard work. Really hard work, but at least they'll get food. They'll get something. And she is noticed by Boaz, who owns the field, and Boaz is a relative of Naomi. And that means Boaz has some responsibility under the law. If he is the nearest relative to Naomi, he really should take Naomi into the house. But I will explain how that works in a minute as we go along the story. So Boaz sees Ruth, and Boaz feels a sense of responsibility, as well he should, because the law is clear. You're supposed to take care of your family. And so Boaz, knowing that Naomi is family, and Ruth married into the family, offers her more food. He says, here, take more. Take more. Here's some more. And so he starts to help her and Naomi by giving them more food. Naomi, being a wise woman, in chapter 3, says this to Ruth. She says, my daughter, should I not try to find a home for you where you will be well provided for? And then she says, is not Boaz, with whose servant girls you have been a kinsman of, with whose servant girls you have been with, isn't he a kinsman of ours? Yes. Okay, so Naomi is looking after Ruth, but also is looking after herself. And that is, Boaz is available. Ruth is available. Wouldn't it be nice if they got married? So, Naomi gives this, tells Ruth to go to the threshing floor after the day is through. Okay, so let me explain the threshing floor to you. Well, now you have these bundles of wheat, and inside this hard shell is the grain you want to make into flour and make into bread. How do you get the grain out of the hard shell. Okay, so they took all this bundles of wheat and they put them on a floor. It was usually stone floor or brick floor. The brick floor was usually on a hill. And the reason is you want some wind. You want as much wind as you can get. And they would crush the hard outside of the grains. And they would do it usually with animals. They would have a cow, sheep, cow, whatever they had available to them, and they would walk them across the threshing floor, back and forth across the threshing floor, because of how hard their hooves are and how much weight they could put down when they step. And so they crushed the outside of the grain, the shell. They crushed the shells with animals on the floor. Then they had to separate the grain from what they call the chaff, which is all the plant material. So they take rakes and they throw it up in the air. And hopefully the breeze is blowing. Usually they did it in the evening because the breeze was blowing in the evening. Tended to blow at the end of the day. So they do it in the evening, and the breeze takes care of all this plant material you can't eat, kind of blows it away, and the more heavy grains fall to the threshing floor, and you brush them up with a broom and collect them and put them in a bag. Okay, so this is all day, every day for probably a week. It depends on how much land you have, how much grain you have, but it takes a while to do this. And every night, somebody has to guard your grain because it is very valuable. Somebody. So that means Boaz is sleeping up on that hill every single night because it's his grain. And he's going to make sure nobody steals it because he's invested a lot of time and money into this. So Boaz is up on the hill sleeping, and Naomi knows this, and she says, go join him and see what happens. And she also tells Ruth to dress up well and to put on some cologne, some perfume. Very nice. So she goes up and she offers marriage proposal. It's sort of a marriage proposal. It's a very this story is very what's the word I want to use? Everybody is proper, sort of polite and proper in the story. So this is chapter 3, verse 9. When Ruth says, "I am your servant Ruth," she says to Boaz, "Spread the corner of your garment over me, since you are a kinsman redeemer." Basically, it's a marriage proposal. She's saying, I am available. I need somebody to, quote, spread the cloak over, in other words, to take in and protect. But you are a kinsman redeemer means you have, there is a duty, a responsibility with you and your connection. Because of family connections, you kind of have a duty and responsibility here as well. And so he says yes to the proposal. And then we go into verse 4, and he has to make it official. He has to kind of make it's kind of a contract. He's got to make a contract here. He says there's somebody else who could also redeem these two women, could also take them into their home. And so he goes to that man at the city gate, and so business was done at the city gate because there were witnesses. There are people that sort of hang around at the city gates. It's a busy place, lots of coming and going. And so he needed to find witnesses to make it an official contract. And so he finds the other kinsman, the other person who's related, says, Naomi and Ruth are back from Moab. They have land, because there's land in the family. Do you wish to redeem the land? He says, well, maybe I will. He says, if you redeem the land, though, however, Naomi and Ruth are going to come along with the land. And the other man says, well, no, I don't think I will. I don't think I will. And so they make a deal in chapter 4, verse 8. The kinsman redeemer said to Boaz, "Buy it yourself." And he removed his sandal. Then Boaz announced to the elders and the people, "Today you are witnesses that I have bought from Naomi all the property of Elimelech, Kilion, and Mahom. I have also acquired Ruth the Moabitess, Mahlon's widow, as my wife." Okay, so it's sort of it's a very strange contract today, including a land purchase, so to speak, including women in that. But it made sense in the time period because the women needed a place. They needed somebody to take care of them. And so Boaz marries Ruth. They have children, and their grandchildren, one of their grandchildren is King David. So it's a wonderful story, but what it has in it is all these great, these great lessons on what love really is all about. For example, the love between Ruth and Naomi is so strong. The two of them are looking out for each other. The two of them care for each other. The two of them are willing to give for each other, willing to do so much for each other. And then we see in the story the love between Ruth and Boaz. Boaz is interested, becomes interested in Ruth, and Boaz shows her kindness. Ruth shows him kindness. They make a deal, and then they become man and wife. This love, this bond that we call love, is one full of it's full of emotion, but it's also full of faithfulness, being faithful towards each other. It's also full of being sacrificial, which is and also honor. And so let me go through these other three ideas that come from this book. Faithfulness. Ruth is faithful to Naomi, stays faithful. She says, "I'm going with you to your home, and I will make it my home. I will make, your God will be my God. Your family will be my family. I am staying with you." Faithfulness, no matter what. That is also part of falling in love, of making a family, and just sticking with your family, with your friends, with parents, with siblings. Faithfulness, staying faithful to someone no matter what. Sacrifice. Ruth sacrifices when she decides not to go back to her home and stay with Naomi. She has no idea what's going to happen, and she's willing to sacrifice because of her love for Naomi. And then we have Boaz. Boaz is also sacrificial. Boaz gives Ruth and Naomi food. Boaz welcomes them into his home. He doesn't just marry Ruth. He also brings would it be his mother-in-law? No, his redeemer. Almost mother-in-law. There we go. He welcomes her into the home. And as you can see, there's a little bit that you can say no. The other kinsman redeemer, the man we call in the book story, he says no. He's not interested in this arrangement. So Boaz sacrifices, and then duty. All three, Naomi, Ruth, and Boaz, all follow the rules and act responsibly. There's a duty for them. Ruth feels duty to stay with her mother-in-law and support her mother-in-law. Naomi feels duty-bound to help Ruth find a new husband, find a new home. Boaz feels duty-bound to follow the rules and welcome these people into his family. So they all act responsibly. We got love, faithfulness, sacrifice, duty. These are all part of being married. These are all part of being part of a family. This is all part of being part of an extended family, like a church. that we here at the church, we should love and care for each other, but we should be faithful, we should be sacrificial, and we should follow God's law. This is all part of being part of society, part of what we're about. And it's part of what Jesus taught. Love. Do unto others as you would have others do unto you. Jesus talked extensively about love, about caring for his disciples. You are my friends. This is God speaking. He says, you're not my disciples, you're my friends. He talks about loving your enemy and doing good to those who persecute you. Oh my goodness, that's powerful love. Jesus talked about faithfulness. One of my favorite sayings from Jesus is, let your yes be yes and your no be no. And I look at that and saying, yes, that means be faithful. If you say you're going to do something, do it. If you believe in something, believe in it. If you're going to be a believer in Jesus Christ, you have to be faithful. Faithful to your belief system, faithful to what Jesus taught, faithful to the Bible, faithful to God. All about your yes be yes and your no be no. If I say yes to God, I'm all in, 100% in. Then there's sacrifice. Jesus sacrificed himself on the cross. He went willingly to the cross. He knew what was going to happen. He knew exactly how it was going to go. His disciples could not understand it, because who would do that? Who would willingly sacrifice themselves? Jesus did that, and so Jesus asked the same of his followers, to sacrifice something of ourselves for God, to be people willing to live a life of sacrifice. What does that look like? Well, as a husband, it means I don't always get what I want in life. I don't always get what I want. In fact, what was the joke? I told the joke to Charlotte yesterday. I thought it was, well, I think it's funny.
I don't remember.
No. The joke was, it had to, it had to do with that awful radio thing. Alexa. I hate Alexa. I hate Betsy got one of these radio Alexa things. And, the things that listen to you when you talk. I think it's a monster. I think it's some sort of evil device that's there to ruin my life. Listen to everything I say and ruin my life. Betsy likes it though. You like it?
I use it as a radio.
She uses it. Yeah, she likes it. So I said to Charlotte, I said, if this was my house, Alexa would be in the trash. But it's not my house. It's your mom's house. So that's right. Okay. So sacrifice. It means I don't always get what I want, but it's more than that. When we had children, we had to sacrifice. We had to sacrifice a lot, because that's children. You got to take care of your children, and they need time, they need stuff, they need love. You got to sacrifice a lot when you have children. And then there was the ministry. When I told Betsy, God wants me to be a minister, she sacrificed a lot, because it's really hard to be the wife of a minister. It's really hard. And so she had to sacrifice. So sacrifice is part of love, what it looked like. And it's what Jesus taught. It's how Jesus lived. And then duty. Render unto Caesar what is Caesar's. Render unto God what is God. In other words, God has laws. The government has laws. Society has rules. Our family has rules. Our household has rules. In order to live with other people, you gotta have rules. You don't like rules? Move to Alaska and live in a cabin in the middle of nowhere. Then you don't have to follow any rules anymore. You might starve and you might freeze, but you don't have to follow rules anymore if you do that. But if you live with other people, there are rules, and it's just the way it is. So duty, render unto Caesar what is Caesar's, render unto God what is God's. Contrast this with modern love. Okay, here we go. Now I'm going to get. Now I get to really go crazy here, right? America's concepts of modern love. What does that look like? Well, number one, sex, right? That's what it's supposed to look like. On television, on the radio, in movies, everywhere. It's all about sex. That's everything, all relationships are all about sex. It's just nonstop, unending, wall of noise and sound and pictures and everything, just, sex is everything, sex is everything. No, it's a very small part of life. It's an important part of our relationship, but it's a very small part of life. And, it produces children, and that's a biggie, but it's a small part of life. It really isn't what society says, and it's not. It's a part of what love, a relationship like Betsy and mine, is, but it's not. It's a small part of it. It's a small part of it. It's not everything, like society teaches. Faithfulness. Society teaches about individuality. Do what you feel is right. What you feel is important. Be yourself. Be yourself. Love yourself. Yes, that's another way. Oh, you have to love yourself, and you have to be yourself, and you have to do what you think is right. That's, yes. But once again, small part of life versus a much bigger part of life, which is being faithful to other people, because we have all these other people around us, and people who need us, like my children, and my wife, and my church family. And yes, there is a little bit of me that needs to be me, whatever that means, but there's a much bigger part of life, is the people around me. And that means I have to be faithful to them. I have to be faithful to them. And faithful to their needs. Faithful to their protection, faithful as a helper, faithful as a minister. Sacrifice. No, that's a bad word, isn't it? This is the biggest part. One of the biggest parts of a relationship is sacrifice. And yet, try looking in books. If you're ever in a bookstore and you have all these books on marriage on the shelf, try finding the word sacrifice in any of those books. It's so rare. It's so rare. Marriage counselors don't talk about sacrifice. They talk around it. They kind of, they talk around it. Like listening. That's a word that counselors use a lot. Listen. You have to listen to what your partner is saying. You have to listen. And what they're really saying is you have to listen and sacrifice, because your partner is asking you to, give here, to give a little, and give and take, and all that. But nobody likes this word sacrifice. That's because society teaches self-gratification. Self-gratification, yes. I'm who matters. And me getting what I want is what life is all about. Me getting what I want. And once again, and you don't have to go far to see this. Television, commercials, it's non-stop. Self-gratification. Do you know what they said to us when we bought our car? We got a new car this past week. It's Betsy's car. This is not mine. I drive the old, junky old truck. But Betsy's car. So Betsy got a new car this week. You know what they said? They said, congratulations. For what? For what? Nobody, what if I bought a pair of shoes? Would he say congratulations? Or something? But no, a car. Congratulations. Because it's like a major self-gratification thing. Cars, It's a major self-gratification thing. And, driving a nice new car, fancy. What is it? My children complain about this all the time. You see a sport, a hot rod. Let's call it a sports car, hot rod. Fancy, like a Porsche, a little red Porsche. Okay, so a little one of those fast, souped up red Porsches. Who's driving it? Old white guy. Because that's what we replace. My kids keep saying that. It's like, hey, Dad, you're at that age. You need to buy a red Porsche, to drive. Because that's